After months of silence in the alleged money laundering case against the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betta Edu, and the ministry, which included the former CEO of the now suspended National Social Investment Program Authority in SIPA, Halima Shehu, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says it has recovered 30 billion naira. The commission said in an update included in a bulletin titled EFCC Alert that it is also looking into 50 bank accounts and that the 30 billion naira that was found is in the federal government's coffers.
Well, remember that it was alleged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed Dr. Edu from office on January 8, 2024 and directed a comprehensive inquiry into the purported transfer of 585.189 million naira intended for disadvantaged groups in the states of Lagos, Ogun, Cross River and Akwa Ibom into a private account. Executive Chairman of EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, says that the anti-graft agency was making progress on the investigation, calling for Nigerians to exercise patience. The big question is, how long should Nigerians wait? Well, joining us this morning is Dayo Akintobi, a public affairs analyst. Mr. Dayo, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure is all mine. Happy Eid al-Fitr to all Muslim faithful in Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go straight to the very first question. We did see Minister Betta Edu and the former CEO Halima Shehu, they actually were suspended about 3 months ago by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Besides that, this was because of the alleged financial malpractice. How has the delay in investigation, do you think, how has it affected the case so far? Because Nigerians are waiting, it's so long.
Yes, it's not how long it takes, it's how well it is done, how thorough. And if you look at the statement by the EFCC Chairman yesterday, he essentially said they're tracing and investigating over 50 different bank accounts and that these things take time to do. He has a limited staff, they have thousands of other cases, so he's got limited manpower to devote to this particular situation. And as a result, if you want a thorough investigation, it has to be painstaking, it has to take time. And what he essentially did yesterday was assure Nigerians that they will get to the root of the alleged financial recklessness, but it will take a bit of time. He says they've only been on the matter for about 6 weeks, which, considering the volume of transactions they have to scrutinize, that's not a very long time at all. He says some of these cases take years.
Well, from where we are, Nigerians, obviously, there's a trust deficit that we have.
Yes.
Whilst they say that it will take time, a number of Nigerians do feel that that's just an excuse to just beat time, to waste time, so that eventually people forget and they sweep it under the rug. So do you genuinely believe that we will get to the end of this case? Because I can start to read out cases that for years have been in the news, but till today we've not had a resolution to.
Well, the first indicator that this might be serious is the fact that a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was suspended for office. That's a rarity in Nigerian political history. I mean, in the 8 years of the previous administration, in an entire 8 years, I think only 2 ministers lost their job. So to consider that within 7 to 8 months of this new administration, they've taken the bull by the horn and actually suspended somebody as pivotal to the administration as a minister, actually on allegations of financial misappropriation. Under normal circumstances, these kind of things would either be overlooked or swept under the rug or dealt with kids' gloves. But to publicly affirm that there might be a case to answer by actually suspending this person, I think it shows a level of seriousness on the part of this administration to combat corruption.
All right, corruption seems to be a major problem. We did see the previous administration when it started, administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. One of the tenets of his administration was that corruption will be dealt with. It will no longer exist. 8 years down the line, it didn't look that way. We have another one, which is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, same political party. Do you think Nigerians truly have interest and believe that the same APC would be able to stamp out corruption anytime soon, looking at what is happening here?
Well, corruption seems to have become endemic. It seems to be pre-written into our DNA. And efforts to fight it historically seem to have always been half-hearted. It seems to be so ingrained in the way we do things. But that doesn't make it acceptable, and that doesn't mean that Nigerians are happy, especially in the way that corruption has come to affect every minute facet of our daily lives. Corruption plays a major deleterious role in our well-being on a daily basis. So I think Nigerians ultimately are tired, they're fed up, and they really want to see this hydra-headed monster dealt with. And I think this administration has shown fidelity to the fact that it's serious about fighting.
But what is it about the Nigerian state or our systems that make it easy for people to, be so involved in corruption cases? Is it the fact that we do not have strong systems to ensure that they are punished? Or is it the fact that we haven't gotten to the root of a number of these cases? Because it does seem like it's an easy option for people to explore. People who even had good intentions before they got into power, and all of a sudden they're dancing to a different tune. So what's it about us?
Well, clearly the deterrence factor is not strong enough in terms of the consequences of corruption. But I also put it down to an individual basis as each of us. It seems to be the Nigerian way to cut corners, to look for shortcuts. You don't see corruption in office alone. We were used to thinking that corruption is only when you go into public office to serve. But corruption is at the heart of our daily lives, even us as individuals. We practice corruption on a daily basis by cutting corners, by jumping queues, by paying police to look the other way when our papers are not complete. There are things we ourselves do that are an endorsement of corruption that any government is a reflection of the people itself. So I don't expect to see government practicing anything different from what we as individuals do. So what I'm trying to say essentially is that, yes, we're inured to corruption in a way that is a part of our daily lives, but until we begin to recognize the fact that the consequences of our behavior have a boomerang effect on us individually, and then we begin to retrain our own minds to eschew all the things that stand as corruption at a microscopic level, because it goes from the micro to the macro to the gargantuan.
My look into this is the fact that, anyway, do you think Betta Edu, the minister, would actually be let go? Do you foresee any chance? And if that happens, what kind of statement do you think it will make for this present administration?
Well, first of all,
and if she's not, what kind of statement do you also think it would make?
Well, the first thing to always remember is that legal maxim that you're innocent until proven guilty. So as of now, she hasn't been convicted of anything. She stands accused of having diverted 585 million naira, paid it into a private account. She has given a basis or a reason for why she did that. She says it is standard practice. The money was for vulnerable people in 5 states. She paid it into the account of the accountant general of her ministry, who was in charge of disbursement, because they couldn't individually start sending money to 20,000 individual accounts. That is her on the surface explanation. The president didn't buy it, obviously, and has asked her to be suspended while they investigate, because I think federal procurement laws don't permit government funds to be paid into a private account. So she's already violated federal laws and possibly policies. Now, in what brought about this recent furor, this thing that the EFCC Chairman released in a statement the other day, essentially all the media houses have carried it that 30 billion naira has been recovered from Betta Edu. I beg to differ. I don't think the chairman said that to begin with at all. I've parsed his statement scrupulously, and what I discovered was that he started out by saying they have been suspended. They, in the plural, he was talking about Betta Edu and Halima Shehu, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency. Now, after saying they have been suspended, we're looking at things. We have recovered 30 billion. And in this particular case, now he goes back to the singular, this, and he qualifies a particular case. Which particular case? Because remember, Betta Edu's 585 million, Halima Shehu has not been accused in that case. And in Halima Shehu's 44 billion case, Betta Edu has not been accused in that case. So we have 2 separate cases. And possibly a third from the previous minister under the former administration. There are 3 independent independent, separate cases being talked about here. So when he goes back and he says, in this particular case, we have recovered 30 billion and we are investigating 50 different accounts, people automatically took it to be Betta Edu because the release was titled Update on the Betta Edu Matter. But if you're investigating somebody for misappropriation of 585 million, chances are you can't recover 30 billion from 585 million. But it's a greater possibility or probability that you recover that 30 billion from the 44 billion case of Halima Shehu. So there's a corporate communications problem with that press release. However, it was meant for internal consumption of EFCC staff. It's an internal newsletter. So perhaps the people the chairman was speaking to already know the different cases. But because it was released as an e-document, there's always chances that it will get out. And it did get out. So I put it at the feet of the communications department of the EFCC that statement was ambiguous and led to misconstruction of what the EFCC chairman was trying to say. I want to clarify at this point, not holding brief for Betta Edu, but from my reading on the face value of what the EFCC chairman said, he never for once said that Betta Edu they had recovered or they had recovered 30 billion from her and they were investigating 50 accounts relating to her. Yeah. So I think we need to clarify that.
Yeah. That's a
very valid point.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to ask, we're talking about all of this, the fight against corruption and the role that the different arms of government have to play. For the longest time, there have been those who have talked about how the judiciary is not as independent as it should be. Now, if you look at Nigeria's ranking, the most recent ranking I'm seeing here is that we are ranking 145th country among the 180 countries on Transparency International's Corruption Index. Talking about how transparent these different arms of government need to be. We don't know how much our ministers are earning. We don't know how much our House of Assembly members are earning. How important is it to emphasize the conversation about transparency, and how can these different arms of government actually checkmate each other, which is why they were established as different arms for separation of powers and to be able to checkmate each other. So how can we encourage transparency? How important is it? And checkmating their powers?
Well, in our own particular type of political setup, the executive is all powerful. The way it was originally conceived, all three branches are supposed to be equal. And like you said, checkmate each other. They have oversight functions of each other. The judiciary, at the end of the day, usually has the final say. But because the judiciary in Nigeria ends up beholden to the executive, they are holding office at the behest and largesse of the executive. Ultimately, they end up doing the executive's bidding, which unfortunately now compromises the notion of justice. And as you talked about, perhaps because there's not that much transparency at all to begin with, which now goes back to the whole idea of, is this the right political system for us? It's very expensive, it's a burdensome, it's over-bloated, it's expensive. There's so many things wrong with the political system that make it impossible to have the kind of transparency and accountability that you're talking about, because the three arms basically are in bed with each other. When you look at it, the legislature that we have, not just in this government, in the previous government, they are called rubber stamps because they do the bidding of the executive. Likewise, that the executive can dictate to the judiciary the way it wants a particular case to go. So the question you've asked is a lot more complicated because it looks at the whole structure of the political contraption that we have devised for ourselves in this country, and perhaps it needs to be broken down and rebuilt from ground
up.
That
would be, in fact, I think that this is a separate conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
That would require more time. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have had you here. And we hope that we can have you again, Jordan.
Pleasure and honor all mine. I look forward to coming back anytime.
All right. We've come to the end of today's broadcast. Let's share what's happening later today on News Central.